Morning everyone, it's Ian from DIY Home and Gardening, back up at the orchard again today, although it's a much better day than it was when I was doing the apple pruning video. So today I'm going to be tackling the tree behind me, which is a pear tree. Again, if you look at information that's out there, then they give you a pruning schedule of between November and March, which is quite a long period of time to prune in. Personally, I'd rather do pear tree sort of January, February. You can go a little bit later than that, but which makes it in some respects easier to prune the later you get. But personally, yeah, I'll try and get it done January, February. So there's a lot of similarities in the way of pruning pears to apples, but there are also some fairly significant differences. So if I turn the camera around, and then I can talk you through first the similarities and then the differences. Right, so I suppose the obvious difference between a pear tree and an apple tree is their actual growing habit. Now you'll notice from this one, even though it's not particularly good shape, and from that one there, that they have a more sort of goblet shape to them, so they naturally want to grow more upwards with the vertical stems, and they will fruit and flower quite happily on vertical stems. So that's the main difference. So with the pear tree, you're not trying to create a dome shape like you would be with an apple tree. But when we get to these sort of similarities in pruning, so you still start with any of the dead, diseased, damaged stems, that sort of thing, and so you can work your way around and simply take off those bits. But with a pear tree, you're not really concentrating on removing the height from it, because as I say, it's naturally wanting to go upwards, unlike an apple tree. Also with a pear tree, different to an apple tree, is that on an apple tree you can look to prune all these little fresh shoots, whereas on a pear tree, actually these side shoots here and these buds, they're the spurs that will produce the fruit. And actually on a pear tree, it fruits on older wood, and when I say older wood, I mean wood that is generally about 2 years old. So if you start doing excessive pruning and taking back all these side shoots, not that one, but yeah, any of these side shoots, then you'll find that you won't get fruit this year and you won't get fruit next year either. So you need to be less ruthless on how you're pruning your side shoots. Basically, unless it's congested, don't really touch them. And the other thing as well is that you'll probably notice, so by this, you know, the fresh growth is naturally wanting to go upwards, but there's less of it. The pear trees are much less vigorous than an apple tree, so again, you don't need to be quite so heavy-handed with a pear tree as you were with the apple. And really you're looking as pruning 10 to 20% of volume is all you'd be removing, no more than that. If you start trying to prune more than that off, then you'll find that it goes into overdrive on what are called water shoots, which is basically lots of this spindly growth, and none of that would produce fruit. So that's the starting. It sounds complicated, but it's not really. So we'll start with the basics. Let's go around and take off any of the dead, diseased or damaged stems. Right, so we've been around, pruned out the dead, diseased, damaged stems. Then you want to have a look at removing crossing branches. And you know, I'll make the comparisons with apple trees because it's pruning at the same period of time and very similar. But like with the apple tree, you want to remove your crossing stems, but where the apple tree's producing a fairly dome-shaped tree anyway, it's not that significant if you do happen to have the odd crossing branch. with a pear tree, because it's a much slender tree to begin with and the growth is going upwards, it really does make a difference if you remove your crossing branches, because you will then mean that you get a much better open middle to the tree, which will significantly improve the air circulation and movement and reduce your potential pest and disease problems as a leaf starts to form and subsequent fruit. So as I say, go around, remove your crossing stems. If you've got obvious really untidy sections, yes, remove them, take them back to either some nice fresh strong growth, or if you want to maintain the goblet shape, then you can even come back as far as here. I'd say probably for this year come to here. The other noticeable difference that you'll probably find once you start trying to prune your pear tree is that pear tree wood is tougher than an apple tree, so make sure your secateurs are nice and sharp and clean as always, and you'll probably find that you have to use a pruning saw or strong loppers more than you would have on your apple tree. So let's continue. Remove your crossing stems, tidy up your more outer limbs to create that nice goblet shape, and then we'll come to sorting out the side spurs or fresh growth. Right, so we've removed your dead, diseased and damaged stems. We've taken out the crossing stems. We've removed some of the unruly side growth, and so far that's resulted in just those few pieces. You know, like I say, on pears you're looking really, 10, possibly 20% of volume of tree to be removed. Personally, I'll try and go with the smaller volume as possible. Now we've got this nice sort of olive brown stem, which is the fresh growth, which is last year's growth. Now this section here won't carry any fruit this year or possibly next year, so really what you're doing to it now is for fruit in 2 years time, and in order to encourage the fruit development you do need to give it a slight prune, and you only want to take it down by about a third. So third, outward facing bud, and that is all you need to do. And then what will happen is these little side buds here will shoot out, and then the following year they will shoot out and they form their side spurs, a bit like these, which is the bits that will carry the fruit. Okay, so that's all we need to do, is literally take off a third of last year's growth, and as you can see it's not really put on a tremendous amount of growth to tackle, so it won't take very long. Okay, so I'm all finished. Cut back all the fresh growth by the third, taking out the dead, diseased, damaged branches, all the crossing sections, and essentially that's it, done. We've finished the pear tree. Probably the only thing worth mentioning is that you can probably see here, so that's lichen, and it is a natural thing. It's not a problematic fungus as such, but it does form on trees and shrubs over a period of time, and basically it's a bit like with humans. As the trees age, the bark becomes more porous, and it creates these nice little porous sections for a moss and lichen to bind to, and that's how it starts forming, is that it sits on there, and if the tree sits in a damp or shady position then it's more likely to get the lichen form on it, and over a period of time the lichen then grows on itself, which again is not a problem until the point where it then starts covering over the nice healthy buds. The only way, or the easiest way to remedy this, is when it gets to the sort of summertime and get some nice dry weather, you can just get either with your fingers or a light brushing, just to remove that lichen, and that will help. Likewise, decent pruning, plenty of well, making sure that the trees and plants aren't drying out during the growing time, and give them a good feed. That will also help them to get through it and to keep growing nice and strongly. So that is it. So all there is thanks for watching the video. Hope you found it of interest. Like I said at the very start, you know, pear trees are similar to pruning for apples, but they're also different. So if you're not quite sure, if you've got any questions, then please do send them to me and I'll do my best to answer for you. If you like what I'm doing, then please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that reminder button so you don't miss out on the future videos that I'm doing. And yeah, certainly whilst the weather's good, get out in the garden or up your allotment and have some fun. And yeah, keep enjoying yourself. So till next time, bye for now.